Thus, my 46-year-old dad was set to wed 44-year-old Cindy last week. I was not there. I am 24 years old, and my father had revoked my invitation because of a fabricated accusation Cindy had made against me almost a month prior. She said that it looked like I had taken her engagement ring. For the previous 3 years that Cindy and my father had been dating, I had always made an effort to be kind to her, but she never appeared to be interested. I never really cared that my dad was seeing someone else because my mother died when I was quite little. I'm not sure why she didn't like me. It's not like we were close either. Cindy asked me to come over to the house about a month ago. She informed me over the phone that she wanted to strengthen our bond since she intended to start a relationship with me once she married my father. That was very lovely of her, but it also made me a little uneasy. She was pretty persistent about it, so I originally said no. I made the decision to stop by her after work. She greeted me warmly and kindly when I arrived. We talked for about an hour, just the two of us, because my dad had not returned from work. She must have slipped her wedding jewelry inside my luggage at some time when I got up to visit the restroom. I must have been there for little more than 2 minutes, so I'm not sure precisely how she did it. Everything was going well when I returned. After that, my 16-year-old stepsister Dana, who was staying late at school for play practice, also returned home with her father. Cindy chose the ideal day to give me this pin. Since we were the only ones at home, everything was really carefully organized, and she could have accused me of anything. She only needed to give it plausibility. Cindy started talking to us everything about the wedding after my dad and Dana got home. She abruptly turned to face me and said she wanted to show me her engagement ring. She went back to her room to get it, but as you may have guessed by now, she was not able to find it there, and she became quite upset about it. Given the jewelry's high value, everyone went bonkers over it. Since I knew I hadn't stolen it, nobody even thought to go through my luggage when we all began our circuit of the home. I have no grounds for suspicion. Cindy advised us to check our suitcases and other strange locations after we spent over an hour looking around the home without finding anything. I thought I wouldn't find anything in my luggage, but to my surprise, there it was. When I took out the necklace, I was taken aback. We were still figuring out the ramifications of this, so Cindy and the others started to appear serious. While Cindy expressed her gratitude that we had located the jewels, she expressed her extreme displeasure that I had taken such an action. I attempted to clarify that the jewels had simply appeared in my luggage without any explanation, and that I had done nothing. I knew that must have sounded absurd to everyone else, even as I was saying it. She informed me that her fear had been just this. She then began speaking to my father, telling him that she had always felt as though there was a gap between her and me, and that she had attempted to bridge it, but that I had always seemed to be too closed off to recognize her attempts. She said she had seen my unhappiness even on the day she and my father became engaged. It seems that I had expressed to her my opinion that they seemed to be rushing into this. Although it was actually the other way around, she gave the impression that I was the one who had never warmed up to her. And the worst lie of them was when she told my father that I had agreed when she had phoned me up to pay her a visit today because she genuinely wanted to talk to me about this. She had to step outside and talk to one of the neighbors about a problem with their shared fence, so at first she had left me alone in the home. She was afraid that it was at that very moment, when I was all alone myself in the home, that I had broken into the bedroom and removed her jewels, so that I might ruin the occasion for her. She was attempting to accuse me of something like this, and I was furious since it was all a load of falsehoods. It was simply absurd. I tried telling my father the truth and started yelling at her, but all he did was look disappointed and resigned. He requested me to go, saying he didn't want to talk to me about anything at that time. I persisted in attempting to convince him that I'm not a thief and refused to leave. I would never attempt to ruin their wedding in this way. I also made an effort to be honest with him regarding my connection with Cindy and the fact that I had left the room to use the restroom while we were there. He just refused to listen, stating that he couldn't entertain this at this time since he was too tired from work. I eventually had to go since I didn't want my father and I to become really irritated, I had intended to tell him everything when we were both more at ease, but I was never given the chance. My dad told me via email the very next morning that he didn't want to talk to me any longer, and that he didn't want me to attend the wedding. Cindy had apparently gotten through to him, and since she is his future wife, and he had complete faith in her, he was preferring to believe her over me. In the last few years, when she had tried to be good to me, she had also told him a lot of falsehoods about how I had treated her. He feels that we should go our separate ways for the time being, and I may return to them when I'm ready to welcome her into the family. Although, to be honest, I saw little need in getting in touch with him and telling him the truth. He was already firmly committed to one side. He believed Cindy was correct about my character, even though he was my father and had practically raised me since I was a small child. All that I needed to know was that he believed me to be a thief. I blocked him everywhere and refrained from contacting him in the future. Not that I wasn't hurt, mind you. I assure you that I was. However, what good is it to try to stay in contact with someone who doesn't even think you're credible? He intimated that I was a criminal with no ethics or morals when he decided to trust Cindy, and I can't accept that kind of disrespect. I thereby acted in my own best interests. It had been a month since we last spoke. Then, last week, an hour before the wedding, Dana dropped by my house without warning, giving me a major surprise. She has had a few dinners with them, so she is aware of my residence. I was really perplexed since she had come to my place dressed as a bridesmaid. I asked her what was up since she seemed extremely upset. I was not going to treat her cruelly because of whatever issues I had with her mother. She is a nice kid in my opinion, and she has always been extremely sweet to me. I could tell by the look on her face that she was here with terrible news, so I invited her in so she could talk to me and tell me what was hurting her. More significantly, she arrived with only an hour to spare on the day of her mother's wedding. I had to know what was going on because I couldn't allow anything horrible to happen if it impacted my father. I owed this to my father, even though we were not on speaking terms. She appeared quite apprehensive as soon as she was seated, so I tried to chat to her and help her relax because I could tell she was scared. She finally simply blurted out the thing that was upsetting her. She had discovered, after all, that Cindy was cheating. She informed me that 2 weeks before to the wedding, she and a few of her friends had been walking home from school when they noticed her mother at a cafe, holding hands with a different man. When she went home, she confronted her mother about it. They already knew that Cindy's mother was cheating on her fiancé and having an affair, so when she denied everything and became combative, it just strengthened their suspicions. She was correct about everything. She even looked through her mother's phone when she was sleeping. However, she remained silent about it for 2 weeks since she just didn't know what to do. Her conscience finally dawned on her just before the wedding, and she knew that she could not allow my father to carry out this. She claimed that because she knew there would be terrible repercussions if she disobeyed her mother, she had been extremely anxious about doing so. She felt compelled to be honest with someone, though. She believed that I was the only one who could assist her in this scenario, because she was a very reticent and timid person herself. She broke down in tears on my couch at one point, and I felt so horrible for her because I couldn't imagine how it must have felt to know that her mother was having an affair with her stepdad, and to be unable to speak out for fear of being abandoned. She informed me that she had come to the realization at the 11th hour that she simply could not allow this to happen and for the wedding to go place. She couldn't stab my father in the back like this. He had been nothing but nice to them both. She begged me to accompany her to the wedding so we could talk about this, since she was so afraid and was shaking all over. I truly liked it. Thus, I chose to follow her instructions. Besides, considering the way Cindy had destroyed my father and I relationship, I would never turn down the chance to set her straight. When Dana and I arrived at the wedding location by car, everyone was taken aback, mostly because they weren't expecting me to show up for my father's wedding in such casual attire. Since everyone was aware of the consequences from our incident from a month ago, some people weren't even surprised that I would be attending. In addition, Dana had vanished an hour prior to the wedding, so her family had been really concerned about her. Everyone had been anticipating her arrival so the ceremony could begin. But my father and Cindy were taken aback when we entered together. Cindy chose to ignore me right away and approached Dana to find out where she had been spending the last hour. Since she hadn't responded to any of their messages, everyone had been anxiously waiting for her so they could begin the ceremony. Subsequently, Cindy approached me and inquired as to why Dana had brought this filth into her presence on the most significant day of her life. That infuriated me greatly. I made the decision to speak up so that everyone could hear me and not wait any longer. I revealed to all of them what Dana had informed me about Cindy's extramarital affair. Together with Dana, I was there to support my father and prevent him from being foolish enough to wed this lady. I got to witness the expression on Cindy's face when I said that, and it was worth a few seconds before she threw herself at me and began pounding me. She had not intended to physically assault me in that way, so I was taken off guard. She was on top of me and scraped my face quite a few times, but I got over it fast. I battled back as my flight or fight instinct took over, and ultimately, someone was able to separate us. To be clear, I don't like getting into physical confrontations, but I was sort of delighted when I gave her a fairly hard face slap. Nevertheless, she was so distraught that she began to scream crocodile tears as soon as we were pulled apart. She was murmuring something about her own daughter having betrayed her, but I'm not sure what that was about. After that, she confided in my father, telling him that she would never, ever consider cheating on him. He informed us that we should first talk to each other as a family and appeared to be quite bewildered. We proceeded to his hotel room. Dana informed my father what she had observed on the phone when we were in the room. Cindy realized right away that she was in trouble. She tried to argue that it was a violation of her privacy to search through her phone, and she would not consent to it happening again. But in the end, she had to give in to my father's demands. We all knew it was over the moment she showed him her phone. When he spotted her phone, my dad informed her that the wedding was off. He requested her to go since he didn't even want to see her right now. He made the decision to return home when she insisted on staying put and begged him to give her an opportunity to clarify. Cindy chased after him as he left the hotel, attempting to engage in conversation, but he showed little interest. He simply left, got in his car, and drove home. After that, it was just Dana, Cindy, and me. I urged Dana to pack and come to my place since I was afraid for her safety, and I had a strong suspicion that Cindy did not want to see her either. Cindy objected to the notion, but Dana informed her that, given what her mother had done, she just didn't feel like being around her right now. She then accompanied me back home. She's lived with me for the last week. Although I didn't visit the wedding hall again, my uncle told me that Cindy had given the hotel employees orders to feed the guests lunch and informed them that the wedding had been called off so they could all return home. She didn't even show up for lunch after that. After making the news, she left and walked back to her room, most likely to cry. Everyone returned home after that, and my father hasn't been in contact with anyone since. I wanted to see how he was doing since I was a little concerned about him. Although I had intended to visit him, he contacted me last night. Instead of thanking me or even apologizing for how poorly he had treated me over the last month, as I had assumed, he informed me how dissatisfied he was with the strategy I had chosen to implement on the day of his wedding. He informed me that rather than making that news so widely known and demeaning him, if I truly wanted to assist him, I should have gotten in touch with him directly and had a private conversation. The fact that he was portraying this as though it were my fault really astounded me. It irritated me that his fiancée called me filth, so I started telling him that I would have done so when I became very angry. I knew my father wouldn't defend me, so I had to. He dismissed it, telling me instead that I should have talked to him privately if I truly wanted to protect him. He now feels like the family's joke, and it's all my fault. Before I could say anything more, he hung up, and that was that. I'm now unsure of whether I made the proper decision. AITA for coming clean at his wedding about my dad's fiancée cheating on him. Edit. My father contacted me using his work phone number even though I knew I had previously said that I had blocked him everywhere. That's how he got in touch with me. Dana's dad is not shown in the photo. He never was. Cindy had Dana with a former employer's employee she was seeing. The guy ran off as soon as he learned she was expecting. He revoked all rights, and she was so outraged that he wanted no involvement at all with her or the kid that she refused to accept child support from him. Following the result of the pregnancy, she severed all ties with him and left the firm where she was employed in order to begin a new endeavor elsewhere. Since that time, they have not communicated with one another, and Dana has never even interacted with her father. She did not want to be with her mother at the moment, and she did not feel like she wanted to go back home to remain with my father. As a result, she came back home with me, which was a logical decision. Because I was her most reliable option, I don't really mind that she is here with me. Not only is she kind and quiet, but she also assists me with the tasks. In contrast to my connection with her mother, I believe I said in my initial article that we have always had a positive relationship with one another. Even though I would despise having Cindy as a member of the family, I don't actually mind having her around. A first update. How are you? It has been 3 days since I received the phone call from my father, and during that call, we had a very brief argument. On the other hand, I was curious as to whether or not I was still the one to blame for embarrassing him during his wedding. After going over the comments, I came to the conclusion that I am not. It is merely that he is being unreasonable. I did what I needed to do, and although it's possible that making that declaration in public was probably not the most polite thing to do, I honestly don't care. After talking to a number of members of my family, I have come to the conclusion that what I did was completely appropriate and appropriate. Those individuals who had been seated in close proximity to me at the time when Cindy referred to me as filth had heard her and did not enjoy it. To get the record straight, nobody believes that my father ought to feel ashamed about what took place during the event. Despite the fact that most people have negative feelings about him, they do not treat him as if he were the family's laughingstock, contrary to what he believes. To put it simply, that is just absurd. From a personal standpoint, I do not believe that the actions he took toward me a month ago were appropriate. As a result of what Cindy had revealed to him, he had figuratively and practically cut me off and excluded me from attending his wedding. It had been her word against mine, and he had chosen to trust Cindy rather than his own daughter when she had made her statement. If I were to make an announcement in order to save him from someone else, why would I even bother to consider how he would feel about it? Due to the fact that he is behaving in a manner that is both absurd and unreasonable, I do not believe that I would like to have a conversation with him at this time, at least not until he apologizes. Even if such were the case, I am not certain that our relationship could be resolved. Another update. How are you? We have not received any communication from Cindy, despite the fact that it has been over 2 weeks since the day of the wedding. The things that she intends to undertake are a mystery to me. As I've indicated in the past, I don't really mind having Dana around, so the fact that she is still living with me is something that I am happy about. I have not attempted to get in touch with my father, and he has not attempted to get in touch with me any longer either. It has been brought to my attention by my uncle that my father has been discussing with various individuals the manner in which I disclosed Cindy's affair to the world, and that he has been receiving a great deal of support from our family. Every single one of them seemed to believe that my actions were appropriate, particularly considering that Cindy's acts were more severe than what I did. I have heard from the majority of my family members that they are extremely dissatisfied with Cindy's behavior, and they have made their displeasure known. I have also been told by a few others that Cindy has been screaming about how I ruined her life and embarrassed her in front of everyone, which she has said is the reason why she is so miserable. She has been avoiding me and my father, and I have heard that she is going to travel back to her family in a distant state. This is the reason why she has not been in contact with us. To the best of my knowledge, she is only attempting to completely sidestep the problematic scenario. In spite of the fact that I am not really sure what to make of it, it appears that my father is still not pleased with me. If he truly wants to make things right between us, he is the one who makes the initial effort to get in touch with me. I do not believe that it is appropriate for me to apologize when I do not believe that I have committed any wrongdoing. At this point, everything seems to be kind of hanging in the air, and I have the impression that there are a lot of things that have not yet reached a resolution with regard to them. It seems that what I am attempting to convey is that there is a great deal of uncertainty regarding the events that are going to take place in the future, and this is true for both Dana and myself. As a result of the fact that none of us are aware of what our parents are doing, I am experiencing feelings of being taken aback and lacking control since I am unsure of what to anticipate. Since that final phone contact, my father and I have not communicated with one another, and I have the impression that I will have to get in touch with him at some point. In order for Dana to attend school, she must bring all of her belongings, including her books, her clothes, and everything else. She has just been sharing my clothing and anything else she brought to the hotel for the wedding up to this point. It would be inappropriate for her to wear those to school, and even if we remove the clothing from the equation, she would still want her books. That being the case, it is unquestionably going to be necessary for us to return to my father's residence, and I will need to have a conversation with him in order to coordinate the timings with him. At the same time, I am experiencing a lot of strange feelings over this, and I get the impression that any relationship I may have had with my father has been completely destroyed. Because we will never be able to return to the way we were before, simply having a conversation with him feels like a monumental undertaking. The fact that Dana does not feel the same way about her mother is a source of great relief, and she has informed me that the longer she is away from her, the better she feels. On the surface, it appears that she had never been a very good mother to her kid, and to tell you the truth, this does not come as a surprise to me. Cindy had always been more concerned about her friends and how she was seen by everyone else, according to Dana, who shared this information with me. This is the reason why she used to treat her in a totally different manner in public, as if she were the apple of her eye. But when she was alone with her daughter, she could not care less about their relationship. The most of the time, Cindy would just leave her with the nanny when she was younger. Subsequently, when she reached the age when she could live independently, she moved in with my father. It was a very hot and cold relationship that she had with Cindy, and she would only be kind to her when my dad was there. That was the only time she would be nice to her. Therefore, I can see why she is relieved to be free of her at this moment in time. The third update. A few days ago, I mentioned that I needed to have a conversation with my father in order to be able to go to the home and get all of the stuff that Dana need. She was going to be staying with me for the time being because Cindy hadn't gotten in touch with her, and even if she did get in touch with her, she wasn't sure whether she wanted to go back to Cindy anyhow. When I submitted my update, a lot of people advised me that I needed to just take off the Band-Aid and talk to my father in order to have this matter resolved. I made the decision to proceed in that manner. Immediately following the publication of that update, I unblocked him and sent him a text message in the evening, inquiring as to whether or not I may come over to get Dana's belongings. He answered that I could. It was a complete and utter disaster when we arrived at his residence. Not only did it appear as though it had not been cleaned for about 2 weeks, but my father was also a complete mess. We made an effort to disregard it and mind our own business, but as I was leaving, I couldn't help but ask my father if he had heard from Cindy. We attempted to ignore it and just mind our own business. He informed me that they had discussed the matter after the wedding was called off, and that they had resolved to pay off all of the suppliers and divide the expenditures in accordance with what they had determined previously, but that was the end of it. Following then, he had not received any communication from her. I expressed my regret that he was being forced to go through all of this, and he simply nodded before continuing to stare off into space. I told him that I was sorry for him to have to go through all of this. For the whole hour that we had been there, that was the only thing that he had been doing. He did nothing more than stare off into space while taking a few sips of wine from his glass at regular intervals. He had not even bothered to change out of his work clothes, which was rather uncommon given that my father had mentioned that he experienced a sense of suffocation when he was dressed in his work clothes, and that he preferred to change as soon as he arrived home. Nevertheless, I could see that he was having a lot of difficulty. He stopped me just as I was ready to leave and told me that he wanted to apologize for everything that he had put me through. I was about to leave when he stopped me. He informed him that Cindy had lied to him about a great deal of information, and it is only now that he has come to the realization that he had been taken advantage of just because Cindy desired for me to be removed from the scene. He stated that the only reason he had believed Cindy when she accused me of stealing was because she had given screenshots of me being extremely disrespectful to her when she was attempting to text me, and he believed that this was sufficient proof. He claimed that this was the only reason he had believed Cindy. Now, however, he was of the opinion that those screenshots may have been manufactured. He speculated that she had most likely just ordered a buddy to be impolite to her and then altered the contact name to my. In addition to that, he informed me that she had been quite astute in the manner in which she was going to carry out this endeavor, and that she had informed him of various plans that she had attempted to establish with me, but that I had canceled. When we were having normal discussions, she would bring me up, and she would make me out to be the bad guy. In his mind, he had already been influenced, but he was unable to acknowledge it because he was too ignorant. Therefore, he wanted to express his regret to me for that, and then he began to get emotional. I tried to comfort him for a while, and Dana did the same thing. We both conveyed to him that it wasn't all his fault. For the time being, the fact that he expressed regret for it was sufficient. As soon as I was able to, I informed him that I would make arrangements for a maid who would take care of the house, and that I would also put him in contact with a therapist. I experienced a great deal of compassion for him. At the very least, I have the satisfaction of knowing that I made an effort to mend our connection, even if I do not know whether or not we will be able to do so. Despite the fact that Cindy was crafty and manipulative, my father was unable to see through her. I am not going to hold it against him since he was in love with her, and despite the fact that it wounded me, I am aware that if I had been in his position, I perhaps might not have been able to see through Cindy either. In the case of Cindy, it would have been difficult to avoid falling for her falsehoods, since she is capable of being quite manipulative when she wants to be, and I have witnessed this phenomenon directly. Love has the ability to make people ignorant and blindsided. In addition, it is very evident that she had been attempting to alienate my father in order to make it simpler for her to exert control over him. These types of acts are a form of abuse, according to what I have read about them. I want to be the sort of person that takes action to assist someone who is being mistreated, rather than turning my back on them when they are in need of assistance. When I consider that my father appears to be sincerely sorry, I believe that I have made the correct decision. The third update. I am. Consequently, after a few of weeks have gone, Cindy has at long last made her appearance. She visited my home a few days ago and informed me that she was going to terminate her parental rights over Dana. She stated that she was doing this so that I could take control of her life and take away the life that she had. She stated that she did not require a daughter like Dana, who had the audacity to take advantage of her own mother. I'm really pleased that I have a younger sister, since Dana didn't seem to mind at all, and was actually excited about it. I've also gotten used to having her around, so I'm happy about having a younger sister. Currently, my father is participating in treatment, and we are also working to re-establish our connection with one another. Additionally, he has informed me that he is going to provide Dana with financial assistance, so there is no need for me to be concerned about that. When it comes to our family, things are finally beginning to look up.